Yeah, what happened to Iran?
Nothing happened to Iran.
What happened with Iran?
Iran dropped a couple of missiles, not a couple, like 200 to 400 missiles were launched from Iran towards the occupied territories, and missile sirens rang out throughout the entirety of the occupied territories. Like, it was crazy. You know, there are these like pictures of the sirens when they go off. They are like there are alerts that go out, and the whole of that place was lit up. And then the actual footage was amazing. Like, I don't know. That was such a dopamine
Yeah, like
rush for me.
I think the seeing the videos for the first time, it was like watching shooting stars.
Yeah,
There was a kind of a beauty to it.
yeah.
Why did Iran decide to pop off now?
Well, after the assassination of Nasrallah, the ground invasion of Lebanon, or the attempted ground invasion, they haven't been particularly successful. And also it was in response to the killing or the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. So it was a combination of those factors.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's actually, so it's a response to the Israeli ground invasion in Lebanon.
Yeah, and mostly, like, I'd say mostly it was for the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, because that was breaking the sovereignty of Iran by killing one of their top allies in Tehran, and then also killing Nasrallah. I think that was big, and yeah, bombing Lebanon and invading the south.
The thing is, they did forewarn.
Yeah.
They forewarned them a while ago that
Yep.
if you take the step, it's gonna happen.
Go off.
It's gonna go off. And why was there that trepidation though from before the missiles?
Well, Iran didn't want to. They didn't want to mess up like any ceasefire negotiations that were going on, and the president actually, he said that the West had been putting a lot of pressure on Iran to not retaliate to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, and so they held off because they were hoping that ceasefire negotiations were going to go through. Just after he was assassinated, there were these reports coming out, and it seemed like, everyone was pushing for a ceasefire. Obviously, that never happened, and so yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, the ground invasion in Lebanon,
Yeah.
why do you say it was not successful on Israel's side?
So yeah, so I have this map, and I follow this stuff so closely. So every time there is an airstrike or an air raid in the south of Lebanon, I've been like dropping pins basically, so that I can see like where they would do the ground invasion. Usually before the Israelis invade, they will just bomb everything to try to like clear before an invasion. And so I was trying to like work out where they were going to do it. And the south of Lebanon is a mountainous region. It's uphill, it's valleys. And so it's very difficult to invade because the resistance has the protection of the mountains. And so I was trying to figure out like where they were going to invade into. And watching like their positions is so funny. Like, they don't know what they're doing. And on top of that, they're like duck scared. So when they go in, they don't. And there's so many reports about how the IDF is actually really undisciplined, and we can see that in Gaza. I don't know if you've ever
Undisciplined in war.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you've ever seen videos of the IDF in Gaza, outside of the war crimes that they commit regularly, it's them walking around like they in Cavendish. They're walking around, smoking an energy, unbothered. And they have their troops they never look like they're on a battlefield. They're never like in positions, ready,
Well,
covering each other. And so also like the resistance, as they've thwarted ground invasions 3 times prior to this, like within the last 12 months. The Israelis have tried to move into the south of Lebanon and they've been so unsuccessful. And also, I mean, it's 2006. The IDF also occupied Lebanon from 82 to 2000. In 2000, they were pushed out by Hezbollah. In 2006, they were pushed out by Hezbollah. So they don't have a good record of being successful at ground invasions. And yeah, I don't know why they would attempt this because, yeah, they're getting smoked. Like every single attempt now, I think there's been about like 3 since the official announcing of the ground invasion. They've tried to come into Lebanon 3 times, and every single time they are unsuccessful.
As a people, why do you why do you think the Israelis are so bad at war?
I mean, supremacy is like one element of it, but I think it plays a big part in it. They have this ideology that they are innately better than anyone else. And when you think that you're better, you don't even take into account that you could be really bad, you know? You don't even think like maybe I need to improve, maybe I need to do something differently. Oh, I've gotten my ass kicked like the last few times. Maybe I should do something differently. They don't even think about it like that. They just have this stupid ideology that pressing buttons and dropping bombs and killing mass civilians is how you win. And the thing is, they've been validated for so many years. The IDF, I'd say prior to this, they were seen as this like elite, super sophisticated military. I've watched a lot of ex-US soldiers or Marines or whatever. They talk about volunteering in the IDF or doing sort of work with the IDF, and they go and they do it because they think that they're going to learn something from them, only to come and like find out that these people are completely incompetent, no discipline, no understanding of who they're fighting, what they're up against. So yeah.
But is the IDF essentially just a bunch of random people who Israel are like, come fight this war for us?
Yeah, that's also the other thing. They are it's a conscript military. It's not a professional military. It's people who are mandatory, like they have to serve in the IDF. It's like mandatory. And so because of that, it's not necessarily people who want to go and do this. They are propagandized into believing that they need to serve their country. And I mean, just from the TikToks of these assholes, like you can see that they don't know what they're doing. They think that doing TikTok dances next to a tank is, what makes a military. War crimes. It's ridiculous.
They are not of the caliber necessary for war.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. And like we can see that in Gaza now. I mean, I remember just before the ground invasion of Gaza, I was so stressed. And the way that I sort of calm myself down is by reading and finding out every possible bit of information. Because I feel like if I can preempt what's going to happen, I'm not going to be as anxious. And I kept reading anything that I could find on urban warfare. And I was reading about the Battle of Mosul. And this is where the Americans claim to have defeated ISIS. ISIS has the stronghold Daesh. And reading those reports...
What is the stronghold Daesh?
Daesh is the name of the area.
Okay.
And it's just where ISIS was operating and where they were the strongest. No one had been able to push them out. And reading those reports, it's insane. The fact that, first of all, the urban warfare makes everything complicated. The fact that everything is bombed and destroyed, you don't know what's coming around the next corner, bombing as well. That changes the battlefield every time you do it. So you don't know where you're going. You can't plan it out. And on top of it, the Iraqi resistance were the ones that defeated ISIS, not the Americans. The Americans were busy shooting civilians and doing drone strikes. Anytime they got a little bit scared, they'd order a drone strike rather than tactical maneuvers, strategic maneuvers that would start to degrade the other side's capabilities. Rather than doing that, they just did drone strikes. It was the Iraqi resistance that knew how to move. This was also their country, their city, it is theirs. They were fighting for their country. They're not fighting to protect oil fields. And watching them and like reading the stories of how they managed to do it, I was pretty convinced that the IDF would lose in Gaza. But the thing is, they haven't been doing urban warfare in Gaza. They haven't even attempted it. They haven't gone and like fought against these like militants. There are so many times where the resistance has said, this area has been evacuated, come fight us here, and they don't want to. They would prefer to just bomb people's houses and commit a whole bunch of war crimes rather than doing anything that is of strategic value. Like, nothing that they've done at this point has been of strategic value. They've just committed a genocide, but they haven't degraded Hamas in any capacity. Hamas is still going strong. They released this video in the week of them just destroying Merkava tanks. Like, I'm talking about probably like 6 in one video. And to watch the way that they do it is insane. Like, they are in open fields. There's nothing there to protect them. And they have a rocket launcher on their shoulders and they go and they run up and they shoot it. Sometimes it is a little bit like complicated, the maneuvers that they use, because they will do something to lure the IDF into a certain position where they have like their established positions, and then they'll target them. And there was this one video, literally, like they are this guy that has this rocket launcher, he's being shot at. You see like the ground in front of him being shot at, and he just shoots anyway. He just shoots this rocket launcher, and you see the tank getting destroyed, and you're like, "Oh."
Was this the guy in Sloffies who like
I
took
don't
out
know
the
if he was
tank?
in Sloffies, but there are a lot of them in Sloffies. Like there was this video of these two Hamas militants like running up to this tank, and they both put like these grenades on top of them, or like explosives, and they run up to it, and then they run in opposite directions away, and the whole tank just explodes. And the one bra was in Sloffies. Crazy.
I mean, so what narrative are they gonna run with now? It's because after Iran, I saw a lot of, you guys, but you know, 0 civilians kills. You guys are bad at war.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, the buzz would be like, yeah, we bad at war because we don't start wars. Hamas starts wars. So what is the name of the game for them right now? What do you think their media narrative is going to be?
For Iran, for the Iranian
No,
news ones?
not for Iran, for Israel. What do you think their propaganda will be? It's a war of
about like invading the south and getting
yeah, like how are they gonna make their people feel like they are winning?
There's a military censorship, so nobody's allowed to talk about the IDF casualties. I think the number at the moment is like over 100 in the last week have been killed or wounded, and there's a military censorship, so no one's allowed to put out this information. They release like the names of just a few soldiers now and again, so that's one way that they curb people from knowing, and then also for their own civilian propaganda, they continue to bomb Beirut, they continue to bomb the south, and that helps them to say that we've taken out, by bombing the hospital that's affiliated to Hezbollah, we've taken out militants, when they haven't. And even if they did take out, like a Hezbollah leader, in the week they targeted the house of a Hezbollah member of parliament who is not part of the armed wing. He's in the political wing. But they bombed his house, and this was supposed to be, a military victory for them, when they, on the same day, they got murked, like they got destroyed. 4 evacuation helicopters, 20 ambulances came to come save them. And this was the Golani Brigade, the elite forces of the IDF, commanders, captains, senior soldiers, all destroyed. So yeah, the propaganda that they're going to use, I think, is probably just, we're working with terrorists and they have tunnels and da-da-da. They're just better than you.
Yeah, that should be the narrative. They're better than you, and they are fighting for something beyond
Exactly.
themselves.
Yeah.
I guess that's gonna take us to what we're gonna talk about later, which is the selfish generation or just passive support. But I think they are Hamas particularly. They're fighting for something bigger than themselves.
Hamas, Hezbollah, both of them, I mean, even the Iraqi resistance, the Yemeni resistance, the Syrian resistance, all of these groups are born out of American or Israeli occupation, and what they fight for is their homeland, not an idea of a homeland, not a promise that God made, 1,000,000 years ago. They are fighting for what is theirs, for what they know to be theirs. And I think like there's such a massive difference in fighting for the truth and fighting for propaganda. I mean, if you're an Israeli soldier, just imagine your whole life you're told the IDF is so amazing. You're so lucky to fight in the IDF, only for you to get on that battlefield and get destroyed at every opportunity. Now these people you've been calling terrorists your whole life, and this word, like, it allows you to dehumanize, first of all, and it also allows you to just like you don't consider that they have capacities that you don't understand or abilities that you don't understand. And so the combination of the fact that they are fighting for what is theirs and what rightfully belongs to them, I think that is like so underestimated.
Do you think there's what is the next chapter? Yesterday we were at the PSC's mass march.
Yeah.
And something that stuck with me is that Palestine is almost free.
Yeah.
Was the sentiment, and I love that people are also of the belief that victory is certain.
Yeah.
What do you think the next chapter post Iran will be?
I think it's gonna get a lot more bloody and vicious. The more this entity is pushed into a corner, the more they lash out. Like even the night of the Iranian attack, or the night after, they immediately lashed out on Gaza. Immediately lashed out by bombing Beirut, by bombing the road between Lebanon and Syria that people were using to evacuate. They bombed Syria as well. They bombed Yemen, and this is the only tactic that they have, is to lash out. And so I do fear that the more that they are visibly degraded, and the more that their weaknesses show, the only way that they know how to prove that they're strong is through brute force, and massacres. And so I'm scared for that, but I do think that their weaknesses are showing. And within the political arena, the fact that before Iran did that attack, it was with the go-ahead and the support of Russia. Russia provided them with air defense systems. Russia's been providing. They signed this arms agreement a little while ago. So they are going in, and also the prime minister of Russia was in Tehran like just before. So they're going in with Russian support and support of likely BRICS and likely China. Whereas when Israel assassinated Nasrallah, taking out 6 residential buildings, dropping 2,000-pound bombs on residential areas in Beirut, they didn't tell the Americans before they did that. They just did it. They're going in there without their allies. Germany is now halting arms transfers. France just announced that they are halting arms transfers. The entirety of Europe is too concerned about their own failing economy, the fact that the war in Ukraine has a risk of spreading to Europe, and the fact that a war in the Middle East will mean another refugee crisis in Europe. They don't want to be part of the shit anymore. So Israel is standing there alone, no allies, just America.
I mean, that seems inevitable with like France and Germany. It's capitalist countries where the root is selfishness, and inevitably the snake will eat itself.
Yes.
Because they are rooted in selfishness. They'll eventually, if they're gonna rob a bank, and they're in the getaway car, they're gonna drive away from them because that's It's not about each other. It's not
Yeah.
about upholding anything. It's
Yeah.
about making bank.
Yep. And
And
that's one thing that like came out so much after the Iranian attack was all of these Westerners going, it wasn't successful because you didn't even kill any civilians. This is the Western understanding of warfare.
yeah,
And I'm worried that a lot of people believe that you have to kill civilians. I mean,
to
Iran targeted their military bases, their airfields, specifically the bases and the air bases that were the ones that were used to bomb Gaza for the last 12 months. And they targeted like their F-35 fighter jets, destroyed that, and destroyed like they targeted the headquarters, the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv. They destroyed a significant amount of their military
yeah,
facilities.
like the
But
infrastructure too.
we must hear that Iran doesn't know what they're doing because they didn't kill civilians. This is insane. Like, aren't we talking the whole time about Israel? You know, they are just targeting military facilities in Gaza. Now, how come you're so bad at it? How come Iran is so good at it and you so bad at it?
Yeah, I mean, they are with your narrative, with not you, with Israel's narrative that Iran and Palestine are these uncivilized people.
Mm.
Wouldn't wouldn't you be like better at saving civilians? That's like,
Yeah.
you guys are. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is one thing that I think the world will have to reckon with is this propaganda that they have completely believed and succumbed to of the Arab terrorist. Now you must face what the reality of that is. Because how are you going to explain that Hezbollah hasn't targeted civilians but is destroying your military, destroying them in a ground invasion, destroying them by taking out significant like bases and like some of they targeted the other day they targeted a warehouse that they were using to produce a lot of their weaponry, and they taking out like significant stuff. Iran is taking out significant stuff. They have to come to terms with the fact that this propaganda of the Arab terrorist, uncivilized, barbaric, they just violent, they can only do terrorist attacks. They haven't done any terrorist attacks. They haven't targeted any civilians. And they're still winning. So they must now explain that.
Damn. I think we can tie that pretty much into like with the French and the US pulling a selfish move and being like, no, we didn't say you guys should do that. There's a
Oh, you mean Germany?
sorry, Germany. On a side note, Germany they did something recently. They aren't letting anyone in who has tweeted or like done
Yeah.
any social media posts.
Yeah, you
on
can't be a civilian of Germany, a citizen of Germany if you don't support the
Israel.
Zionist entity.
Yeah, if you've ever said from the river to the sea, or if you like if you've ever been like critical of the IDF or whatever,
Yeah,
that's dumb,
very, very.
and that's also censorship.
Yeah. So this is the other thing about the West. Like, in order to fight against the truth of the situation, because the thing is like the resistance is not relying on propaganda. I remember in the very beginning, probably like a few months in, I went to this press conference that Hamas was doing. They had come to Cape Town and they were doing this press conference. And one of the questions that was asked was, what is the obligation of what obligation do we have to the Palestinian cause? And his response was to convey reality, that we shouldn't entertain propaganda of any kind. We shouldn't try to make things better than they are. We just have to convey the reality of the situation. That is the request of the resistance, compared to what the Western states and all these Zionist sympathizers have to do. They have to implement laws so people can't say things, and use all the kinds of censorship that they can find. Meta, they have to arrest the CEO of Telegram. Yeah, they have to do all of these dirty little tricks to prevent the truth from being spread. They have to become more and more authoritarian. So they have to reckon with this, terrorist narrative, they have to turn into the uncivilized, undemocratic states that they have tried so hard to pretend that they are.
I mean, that's what the apartheid government did, where they'd stop the resistance meetings and
Yeah.
any sort of meeting of so-called terrorists to
Yeah.
go against the apartheid regime.
Yeah.
That's also why we feel a way about
Yeah.
what's going on right now. You told me the other day you were thinking of the Dutch East India Company.
Yeah.
Tell me, just tell everyone about
Sometimes
that.
I just think about the Dutch, But so the story of like our existence in South Africa, I suppose, Cape Malay, is that at one point we were chilling in Indonesia, Malaysia, having a nice time on the islands, and then the Dutch came, they occupied. The indigenous people of that land resisted occupation and colonialism, and people who resisted were taken as political prisoners on the boats to South Africa and enslaved. And after slavery, it was apartheid. And I was just thinking about like what element of that process has been eliminated. Nothing. Not one. Not one part of it. The Dutch East India Company is going strong. It got a rebrand to the United States of America. But other than that, like it's going strong because colonialism, occupation, it's happening right now. They're talking about Greater Israel and how Lebanon has always been part of Israel and how they deserve Lebanon. Insanity. The whole Greater Israel, it's like Iraq, Syria, Yemen, parts of Saudi. This is their dream of Greater Israel. And occupation, we see it happening all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
America has 1/3. It owns 1/3 of Syria. 100% of the oil revenue generated from Iraq is in the hands of Americans. It's insane. And then on top of it, like slavery is not gone. It's not even gone a little bit.
yeah.
Kamala Harris, this woke, oh my God. What? Yeah, black American woman, all of this crap. She, like a few years ago, I think like 2 years ago, she prevented prisoners from going free because she needed them to fight wildfires in California for $1 an hour. Slave labor. The American Constitution, they have the 13th Amendment, which says that you're not considered a person if you're imprisoned. So they can treat prisoners like they're slaves. So again, I asked, like, what part of the Dutch East India Company is no longer with us? It's all there. It's all still happening. And I hate that.
Yeah.
And the ancestors, I feel the rage of them. I really feel their rage. Like,
Well,
I
I mean,
don't know.
trauma is passed on through 7 generations.
oh yeah, I was telling you about the
the
that
experiment.
study.
So
Yeah,
this is about how trauma travels through
Yeah.
generations. And Tyra did some research.
Yeah,
Always doing
it
some
was-
research
yeah, always.
on
Um,
law experiment.
Yeah, so mice, they did this experiment with mice where they were attracted to the scent of cherry blossoms, and after a little while, as they became attracted to the scent, they would electrocute their feet underneath, and so they started to associate the pain with the smell of cherry blossom, and then those mice, it was male mice, they were then bred with they bred with female mice that had no relation to this. They had never experienced the electrocutions or anything, but it took 7 generations of breeding for the like baby mice to no longer be scared and nervous and no longer fear the smell of cherry blossom. And it's because like the trauma and the memory of what that is, it stays with you for so long. And I don't know.
I
I thought about that in the sense that the trauma is with us, but I also thought about it in the sense that every cell in our body remembers what this is. Like we know what this is.
it also makes me want to do two things. Well, one, I want to ask a white person what it's like to be white, and just imagine. And also, I want to ask like anyone else, how do you think? How do you feel being around white people? And I mean that genuinely as just in terms of information. Um, do you feel anything? It doesn't need to be like weird or uh, get upset being around white people. It's just, is there like a little scratch in the back of your head when you around white people in South Africa?
Yeah, I mean it wasn't that long ago. Apartheid ended only 30 years ago.
I mean, I was alive.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I
You were a
was born.
fetus.
Yeah, I was born 1 year after. But yeah, like we remember what this entity is. We know what it is. And I don't know, that and the Dutch East India Company still being alive and well, I feel like that's what Nelson Mandela meant, you know? He wasn't saying some bullshit when he said our freedom is incomplete. It truly is incomplete because what difference does it make? Is it really just that it's no longer happening to us and so it's over, it's finished? Do we just pass this around? Do we just keep allowing the boats to dock somewhere else? Is that all that it is? It's finished, it's gone, so long as we aren't feeling it? Or do we still have the memory? Do we still have that feeling inside of us that this evil exists and it's wrong and it continues and it's hurting someone else? If you told me that for the rest of my life I would never feel the pains, I would never be affected by this entity and what it does, I could live the rest of my life in complete happiness, it still wouldn't be enough for me because the cells in my body, like there's something, you know, I don't know if it's the ancestors, I don't know what it is, but there's something in me that's like, I'm not happy until it's gone. I will never know peace until it's gone. I'm not happy
Yeah.
with life. I'm not content with just carrying on with life until this thing is gone.
Yeah. And that's also something else we need to talk about is the maintenance of the status quo and
Yeah.
why these feelings won't go.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's been happening lately is, well, it's almost the 7th of October again. Well, it's like almost a year since everything picked up.
Since the start of this genocide.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not that it's been going. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Since the escalation.
Yeah, it's
of
the
this genocide.
escalation. And at the beginning, everyone was deep in the like sharing game and posting game, and like we're having a media blackout. And that's shifted a bit.
Yeah.
And I just picked up something behaviorally that indicates to me that there's passivity taking
Yeah.
place in our people. What do you think of this?
Yeah, for sure. I think that for some people, 12 months of this, they've spent time reading. I know like so many people that have started reading like actual physical books about this and that have gone really deep into it, and this has become the thing that defines their life over the last 12 months. And there are a lot of people that I know that are just completely consumed by this for good reason. And I think it's crazy if you aren't consumed by it. But then there are other people that, you know, they say free Palestine, but they still kind of want to go on with life as normal. They haven't made that psychological shift that is needed. They still maintain empire by just normalizing and being so complacent and not understanding that part of the propaganda, it's not only to make you pro-Israel, it's or pro-Zionist, it's also to make you fearful and helpless and complacent,
Complacent.
so that you keep, you know, posting your outfit pictures and your beverage of the day and just complete bullshit that you continue to think your life is so your life is so much more important than this thing that is the most important. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's a threat to to all of our
Well,
existence.
I think it also comes from there's a like in scrolling, you can go from a child dying to somebody showing their outfit to
Yeah.
a child dying to
It's so fun.
like what coffee reviews or whatever
I can't deal with
in
it.
like a split second, and that does impact your
Yeah.
normalization of it.
And like there are a lot of people that I've spoken to recently that have said that they feel crazy, they feel like they're going insane because so many people online go on with life and you're just stuck there crying. You know, you're crying because you've watched like a child get shredded or whatever it is. There are so many vile things that happen. And like the other day, the thing that kind of tore me up was this 11-year-old girl. She had written a will, her toys, and yeah. And the first few lines of her will just said, "Don't cry for me." And it was so horrific that a child and she was killed in an airstrike, an Israeli airstrike, and it was so horrible that this child has to do this. And you know, there's always this conversation about Islam is a death cult and they teach their children to be martyred. What else are people supposed to hold on to grant them just a little bit of peace, just a little bit of comfort when everything around you is exploding and collapsing and you're starving and disease has spread and everybody that you know or your friends have died, your school has been bombed, there isn't a single safe place for you. What else is supposed to comfort you other than the idea that if this finally takes you away, that you'll be going to a better place? How could you take that from them?
Yeah.
These people make me.
Yeah, there's a butchering of an understanding on what the term jihad is all about, and I like
Yeah.
it's. I don't want to go too deep into like the importance of justice, but and I don't want to also shift
Yeah.
because what we actually or what I'm saying, I don't know. You can tell me what you think of it. I'm not saying that people shouldn't live their social media lives or like you need to. I know you need to eat. You got to advertise your cake company. That's
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I just think that your passivity
Yeah.
in what you do is it can be it's worrying
Yeah.
in that I'll tell you what worried me. I see a lot of commodification of products on the movement, and it seems like there's like there are two sides to a capitalist train.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, either I'm selling this and supporting the West, or I'm selling this and supporting Palestine.
But not really supporting Palestine because nobody donates anything. Well, there are people who do, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of these businesses that I've seen and nothing is being donated.
Well, that's what I think we should unpack because it's I guess I have an incomplete thought right now, but like I don't know, is that bad or is it because on the one end they do bring light to the movement. On the other end, there's a complacency in development or passivity in development in the psyche through
Yeah.
it. So yeah, what do you think?
I think that this far in, we can't still be allowing people to be comfortable with the bare minimum or comfortable with just not doing what is necessary. You know, like I don't think it's fine that you make money off the Palestinian cause by selling T-shirts or something with a keffiyeh or the keffiyeh, whatever it is, and you aren't donating the money. I think that's wrong, straight up. And there's a part of me that like wants to allow people to just do what they need to do because ultimately at the end of the day they're supporting, or people who have the flag in their bio but they still repping Israeli products, Zionist products,
Yeah.
they're doing the brand deals, all of that shit. There's a part of me that is just like, but at least they care. At least they're not Zionist. My feeling about it now is that the job of people, of a lot of people, is to heighten the expectation. We can't allow people to think that this is fine, that this is okay. If we say no, it's not upfront, and we are, unflinching in that, unwavering in that, then we make them uncomfortable enough to be better. Like a few months in, I had this need to vent my frustrations, and I was thinking of like doing graffiti, and the thought was like, what can I say? Because the idea that I always have in my mind is that like you have to convey a message, but the message needs to be understood. And so if you're going in, on like the first few weeks after this, and you're going like fuck Israel, whatever, people aren't going to respond well to that because they haven't had time to meet you there. And so I wrote out this like long list of all of the like the levels of it. And I was thinking like, where can I start that will allow people to like move forward? And I designed this like sticker a little while ago that said fuck Israel. And I just want to say I did it before the Brat album was released, dropped, anything. Anyway.
Brat.
Fully. But like I remember when I just made that sticker, everyone was like, no, don't say that. Don't use rude language. It's a little bit too harsh. And now people love that sticker. People want that sticker all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think like our responsibility is to heighten the language, heighten the conversation so that people are brought up rather than pacifying people and allowing them to stay where they are. I think it's dangerous to let people, have the Free Palestine in their bio while doing absolutely fuck all other than buying Israeli products and being proud of it, or continuing with life as usual, because it's starting to feel like it's a bit of a cop-out, It's a way to obfuscate you of any responsibility because you put it in your bio.
Yeah.
But what are you doing? It's a verb. It's an action that's needed. It's not just...
On the other end, people are like myself, I'm also really afraid of being performative. So do you post about what you're doing, or do you do nothing? And also Brat again.
I don't think that you have to necessarily like post everything that you do. Like when I went to Egypt, and I was like working with refugees that had come out of Gaza and stuff, like I didn't post anything about specifically what I was doing. I think I posted like the organization and what they do, but I never posted the actual things that I was doing on a daily basis because I felt like people don't need to know about this. I don't need to be promoting myself and like what a good person I am. It's fine if I just say this is an organization, go support them if you can. That's it. And I get like the apprehension when it comes to seeming performative, but I think there's a need for people to be like honest about where they are with this cause and be open about it. Like if we can, we always see things as being like cringy. Like any time there's like any kind of vulnerability, then we see it as cringy and weird. And we don't want conversations to be had anymore. You want to post your thing and get your likes, and everyone must just heart eye emojis rather than having a conversation of being like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
What do y'all think?
I'm like case number one of fear of cringy, like like not dropping music and stuff, like so it's the line. And
I think authenticity is really important, just in general. In this movement also, I think it's important because there are a lot of people that I see that go on with their lives as usual, and they do their jobs, they progress in their jobs. Some people are making mad moves out here, but they do it with Palestine in their heart, and they do it with that at the center of everything that they do. Like this one friend of mine, he's dope. He's like an actor, and he went to this award show and he was wearing the keffiyeh, and I was just like, it was so moving that in everything that he does, like that's what he's doing. That's what he's thinking. And there are so many people that do that, that show up to all of these events, that go wherever they can, that go into the workplace with the chain, the t-shirt, the keffiyeh, something. And I think that like acts like that, we think that it's nothing. We think that it's not a big deal. But I think
No,
that's
a huge deal.
yeah, because if you're walking around just living life as usual and you start making people feel like this is what's normal. Me wearing the t-shirt, you seeing the flag, you seeing the watermelon, that's what's normal. You can come up to me and tell me I'm a terrorist, but then you're gonna look like an idiot. We have to like change it so that this is part of the everyday life and everyday discourse. And I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah. On a side note, I'm about to talk about wrestling on this podcast. There's a wrestler by the name of Sami Zayn. He walked out wearing a keffiyeh last year. He's from Syria. He is super big, super beloved, and I think that just makes me realize that maybe we can be that platform to just shout out to
Justin Bieber recently wore the keffiyeh.
Yeah. No, I think we can, and we can also like have a fuck these people section, like Nike, Kamala Harris, who else? Brad,
Charlie XCX, Taylor Swift.
Charlie XCX, Taylor Swift. Yeah, we can. Maybe we should have a list of
Fuck the
both.
normalizers, yeah, because you don't have to like, we understand why the Arab states that normalize and have their trade agreements with Israel, we understand why they are so pervasive and dangerous. But the same way that they are dangerous, that's the same way that people who normalize, they have the same thing. You're also upholding this entity and this empire by continuing to make aesthetic and like this curation of self. By making that the most important thing, you uphold for them. They don't even have to spend any money on getting you to become complacent and, individualistic, so that you don't ever have, you say free Palestine, but what you really gonna do about it? Nothing. That you're not a threat to them. And I think like, people need to emancipate themselves from mental slavery. Like for real. It's so liberating. I personally, I don't really post about any of my own life anymore. And if I do post about my own life, it's mostly because I'm doing something related to this, or I'm wearing a t-shirt or whatever. And
how do you feel about people posting about their lives right now?
I mean, post about your life. Like sometimes I want to see someone just happy and loving and getting engaged or having a baby or doing something liquor, whatever. But me personally, like I found it very liberating to not have to worry about my Instagram and like how I come across to the world. Like I don't care about that. I don't care about myself. I care about like the way that I speak about this and the way that I present this, and like I care about that, but I don't care about my own personal brand. Like that's so unimportant.
Yeah, I mean, like we've definitely grown a lot in the last couple of years. Like I think there's a wariness to not being a commodity.
Yeah.
And that's the danger with people being Instagram influencers, that you essentially turn yourself into a company.
Yeah.
Like you end up needing to do things that you don't want to do. You end up needing to represent a brand that you don't want to. But I think we should talk about that emancipation, because there's a mental health conversation that needs to take place in the same sense. What do you think of, I guess you used to be like or you were actually one of the first people, I remember in like 20, whenever ago, were like talking about mental health stuff.
Yeah.
But now there's like, the mental health ether on Instagram. There's like a mental health, a black hole of love yourself
Yeah.
vibes. And I actually wanted to find out where you stand on that whole spiral right now. Shout out to Spiral.
I think that some of the mental health stuff is pretty necessary, but we're coming at it from like this very weird perspective where it's just self-indulgent at this point. I think a lot of mental health stuff is important, but when it becomes so self-obsessed and selfish, and you can say, oh my god, I can't, look at Gaza, it's so bad for my mental health. Yeah, bro, it's bad for everybody's mental health. Nobody's supposed to be watching a genocide unfold. Literally nobody. It's the annihilation of a group of our species. Why do you think that you wouldn't have an anxiety attack when you see that? Of course you would. Of course you would have like nightmares and be completely like scared all the time. Duh. But I think like what scares me about the mental health conversation is this fear of emotions and this like running away from it, never wanting to seem like you aren't okay, like you don't have your shit together, like things aren't fine. Things are not fine right now. And I was actually thinking about PW Botha.
Yeah.
He said adapt or die. I don't know. I mean, he was saying it in relation to like ending segregation, South Africa. But I always think about like adapt or die, because I don't know. I feel like the people that understand that the world is changing significantly, they're sensitive enough to the environment to adapt to it. And yes, it's taken a while for a lot of people to sort of like gain their footing and understand how to mentally cope with watching this genocide unfold, still having the hope, still having the courage, still having the resilience to continue to do whatever you can, to understand like what you can do to just work through this. It takes a lot of mental fortitude, I think. And it has taken a while. I think like for me personally, it's taken a while. But yeah, I think people who continue to pretend like nothing's going on, it's starting to feel like they are like psychotic, because you are genuinely dissociating from reality. Like this, it's not reality to have an. Do you know that Daisies is this weekend?
What?
I did not know.
No.
I didn't know that Daisies was this weekend. I saw someone post about it, and I was like, "It's Daisies?
What?
You went to Daisies? There was a march. Why would you go to Daisies?"
Who's still doing that?
Maybe I just want petrol to go up now. Like, honestly, when Israel retaliates to Iran, like the petrol's gonna go up. So.
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Sorry.
You talking about look? Actually, with everything going on right now, there's also a. No, I just want to. I need to protect my peace.
Yeah.
I need to protect my
What is
peace
that?
right now.
What is that?
What do you think of people who are like, I can't really do anything right now. I need to protect my.
No, that's part of the propaganda. It's part of the
Commodified mental health selfishness.
yeah. It's part of the tactics to keep you in this place, to keep you not doing anything. Fear and hopelessness. That's the most important emotions that they want you to feel, so that you never do anything constructive. The idea that you can't do anything to fight this entity is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like you can. You just can. There's so many ways. Like I saw this one auntie. She was selling acha, no? And I looked at her Instagram page. She's been selling acha probably for like 5 years now. All of a sudden, rebrand Pickles for Palestine. All the proceeds are going to that. She's making acha. You can do something. Whatever the thing
to find out
is.
where the Sacha place is.
For sure, I'll send you the Instagram page.
Yeah.
But whatever your niche is, whatever you're good at, whatever your skill set is, how can that aid the Palestinian cause? Like I made the spiral, which was like a little zine thingy.
Yeah.
Because I used to work as a graphic designer and I liked the vibes of design.
Yeah.
And it was okay. It wasn't a big deal.
sure.
Designing those stickers quick, and like tons of people like it, get it printed. And the thing is, like, momentum really builds. And sometimes you think that the stuff that you do is inconsequential, but it's not. You have to, even if you don't, I mean, like, obviously it's not gonna be one person to take down this entity, but you have to think of yourself as being capable of being a fracture or a crack in the system that will eventually lead to its downfall. Like there have been these great revolutionaries of our time, or not of our time, they're gone now, but a lot of them didn't succeed at what they were doing. But they moved us closer to something. And you don't have to move the whole movement, you don't have to change the whole trajectory of it, but you do have to try and think of yourself as being capable of actually moving. And even if you fail, even if you don't ever do anything, it's the fact that psychologically you've shifted to believing and understanding that that is what's important. Not a battle for land, a battle of consciousness. If you can defeat the fight, like, against your own consciousness, if you can liberate your mind, like, first of all,
And just realize that the resistance is deeply within us. I mean, we all can contribute. I sound engineer to doing this. Like, we can contribute in a multitude of ways. Even like, we're not going to see everyone that's doing their thing.
yeah,
Like, everyone's not going to say they're donating, and it's like, we're not calling people out to like really to like on you, but like, we essentially saying that you are capable, and that it is within you to enact some form of, it doesn't need to be shifting of a massive shift of change, but if everyone's incremental changes is where the impact lies.
yep,
Yeah, resistance is within us.
it's
And
within us.
yeah, I'll see you next week.